All right, we are starting another episode of the Arise podcast, and I am delighted to have Lindsay back on the podcast with us. We needed to complete some conversations that we started, and there was just so much that we spoke about that I feel that there could just be so much more spoken about. So I'm looking forward to hearing more from Lindsay. She's challenged me in an amazing way. She's encouraged me. I'm reading scripture differently. I'm open to understanding better how we understand how God has created us fearfully and wonderfully. And as she said, that we are this temple of Him. Like, what a beautiful position that is. And yet we are so magnificently created, but yet uniquely. And I just think it's, I was reading just recently about how when we look in the mirror, we should be so in awe of how we look that,
Hmm.
like we're looking at the Grand Canyon or the Sistine Chapel, that our
Hmm.
eyes are magnificent, our
Hmm.
mouths, the functioning of our lungs, our digestive system, that our legs, are controlled by our brain. And
Hmm.
wow, God. So, in
Yeah.
response to that, let's continue the conversation about what you do, Lindsay, and how you're responding to people. Could you just respond to what I'm saying now, kind of in light of that's what you wanted people to hear? I'd love for you to flesh out a little bit more
Hmm.
why you want people to hear that. What is it that they are? What is the message that they have in their mind that you want to flip that?
Yeah. Thanks for having me back. Yeah. What do we want people to flip? Yeah. I think that there's just that when people come and see me, there's always like a place of coming from unworthiness in the body that they're at, right? In the body that they are now, right? And that's painful, right? To always feel like you're a walking apology, right? For your body, for how it looks,
Yeah.
for your weight, for how you eat, all that stuff, right? And so, yeah, when we talk about that temple of the Holy Spirit, right? Like what I said last time is that I would my wish is that people feel like they're a temple now and they're not a temple because of what they put on their plate, because of what how they move their body, because of how they look. There's no requirements there, right? And so I think that we have unfortunately looked at the Bible and read it from a diet culture lens, right? That's what we see. And so that's my hope, right? Yeah.
And so flesh that out a little bit more. How are we reading the Bible? Where in the Bible are we even
Hmm.
seeing that?
Yeah. So I'm ready. I'm ready, Hildy, and I have some Bible verses that we talk about. That I want to see the joy, and I want people to see the joy in food in the Bible.
Beautiful.
I want people to see the joy of what God created food to be,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And how food brings us together, and how food is such a privilege to have, and something that we need to survive. And also, I think that diet culture has ruined that part that God has wanted for us to enjoy food together, and then not to judge others on what they eat. So, if we just look at Jesus, right, and how he connected with people in the Bible, right? Disciples, the people that were all the outcasts, right? Food,
Yeah.
eating,
Yeah.
sharing a meal, right? Bread,
Yeah.
right?
Communion,
Bread,
Lord's Supper. Yeah.
Lord's Supper, communion, Passover. Bread's talked about, right? A lot. I'm the bread of life. And I know we can talk about how much bread and carbs have been looked at as bad with diet culture, right? And as even I think that like how we eat, kind of the way that you're eating is sinful and has been twisted, right? And so I want Christians to see how Jesus was with food,
Yeah.
and sharing food and celebrating it, and it's good, right? Um,
Well,
Yeah, that's the standing point.
their weddings. How many
Oh my
days
goodness.
did they feast? Yeah.
Yeah,
But I think even
yeah,
out of what you just said, you mentioned that Jesus is the bread of life,
yeah.
and now I'm going to get emotional. But the reality is,
Mm-hmm.
if we're not clinking to the bread of life, everything else
Mm-hmm.
gets distorted. Like, what are the three evils, right? The world, the flesh, and the devil. And that
Mm,
distortion comes, and that pull from those evils when we are not abiding in the bread of life,
mm,
because he
mm-hmm.
fulfills us completely,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
all of, like, what is the little expression for addictions? Something with a horse. Halt, angry, whatever. Like, if we get hangry, it's because we're not satisfied in,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like,
Mm-hmm.
and when we're not satisfied in Christ, something else has to fill that.
Mm,
And I
mm-hmm.
think that's kind of where you're getting at, right? That we're actually not enjoying the fullness of who God is and how he created us, and how he created food for enjoyment and for gathering and for being
Yeah,
together, and so on.
yeah,
So
yeah,
okay, we're getting, I love this. So
yeah.
you're having people come and you see this distortion and this lack of understanding of worth, and they're living
Mm-hmm.
with the shame of what they look like or how they're eating, whatever else. Tell me,
Mm-hmm.
Lindsay, what are you saying and what are you doing when someone comes, like, in that space?
First, I think like I talk about the importance of like, you know, if we operate from you're a temple right now, right? We want to also operate from a standpoint of we deserve to protect our own bodies and to be kind to our own bodies, right? And Jesus wants that for us. We've absorbed in a lot of ways, in the ways that about eating and diet culture, that it's okay to judge people for what they eat. And then we also judge ourselves for what we eat, right? And we condemn ourselves, right? So we're taught these rules, right? About what to
Yeah,
eat, what not to eat. From there, there's so much guilt and shame about what we eat. That makes sense. So
yeah,
then, and then if you have an eating disorder, right, you already feel fixated on food and what you eat, right? And so then that my worry is that when we enter safe places that should be safe, like church, right? And church is saying, you know, you need to take care of your body, you need to eat your vegetables, and you need to not be gluttonous,
yeah,
right? We are encouraging, and then we're adding on that that's godly, right?
yeah.
So then we're encouraging eating disorder behavior
Mm,
and putting scripture with it, right? In the
yeah,
wrong way,
yeah,
right? So that's what, there's a lot to answer that question, but like
yeah,
that's the starting point of like, yeah, the beliefs about what they have about their body, right? That's what I want to unpack and why and where it's coming from
yeah.
and to
So
heal that.
so good. I just want to read a quote here. If the church does not teach us what our bodies are for, our culture certainly will. If we don't learn to live the Christian life as embodied beings, worshiping God and stewarding the good gift of our bodies, we will learn a false gospel, an alternative liturgy of the body. Instead of temples of the Holy Spirit, we will come to see our bodies primarily as a tool for meeting our needs and desires. Or we may attempt to ignore embodiment altogether, eating and drinking what we will, with no regard for the way our choices violate a call to steward our bodies as gifts. So it's either way. But I just think it's interesting. If the church does not teach us, which I think goes even deeper, if we don't understand the Bible, correctly,
Mm-hmm.
because that's the teaching of the church, then the culture will. And I think that's what you're getting at. Where
Mm-hmm.
is this narrative coming from for the people, for their disordered eating, as well? So you start with that, and you're listening
Mm-hmm.
because, like I said, I don't struggle with it. And I probably do more than I think I do, to be honest.
Yeah,
So
yeah, we all do. We all do.
yeah, because we
Mm-hmm.
do care. I shared this with you before the podcast, but because I'm, healing from Lyme right now, I put some makeup underneath my eyes to
Mm-hmm.
take away the dark fatigue look that I have. And a little girl with
Mm-hmm.
me said, "Why are you covering up the beauty on your face, Auntie Hildy?" And I think that it was just a perfect example of, I don't want people to think that I look that tired or that I am that tired, right? Like, but I am that tired. Healing from Lyme is exhausting. So, but
Yeah,
I
of
think it just
course.
touches on so much of what we're talking about, right? This covering up, this embarrassment, this shame, and I don't think I struggle with it that much. I just think it's you didn't want to look at my dark eyes, so whatever. But the same idea. So you've navigated that. You've come to the point of, okay, where's this coming from? How do you work through that with someone, Lindsay?
Well, it's really complicated, right? Like I think we have to not think about all of this stuff in black and white. So your example
Okay.
of just like putting on makeup, right?
Yeah.
Makeup's okay, right?
Yeah.
It's all right.
Yes.
It's okay. Um, but then, it's good to have a balanced approach of like what the world and what we've been told, is good and bad, right? Or how we should look, right? Now, with people, when people come to me and they're like, Lindsay, I want to help heal my relationship with food. There's so many factors that are at play, right? So we did end off a little bit talking about that, right?
Mhm.
Because I have a list because there's
Okay.
so much,
Yeah.
right,
Yeah.
that affect our
Yeah.
relationship with food, right? So first and foremost, genetics.
Yeah.
It's the way you are born. Genetics, family history, right? The size of your body it's a huge percentage, right, of that. People deal with food insecurity, maybe as a child, right? Not having enough food. I ask about how they were taught about food and how much they were told about good and bad food and how much access. We can look at people who were only given food, treats if they were good, right? I can, this means that I'm good, right? It has to do with your age, hormones, medications you're taking,
Yeah.
health conditions, right? Stress, executive functioning has a determinant on how, like, right, with like how accessible it is to prepare foods. So anyway, it's a long list,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Right. And
I'd
so
love,
we're,
yeah, go ahead.
go ahead.
I just love to unpack a little bit more of that, like even just
Yeah.
genetics, right?
Yeah.
So, how do you work with someone? Because you
Hmm.
mentioned that people up to 60 are coming to see you. So, I'm thinking of a 45-year-old woman
Yeah.
that has, genetics of a larger body. She's
Hmm.
dealing with, hormonal changes in her body.
Hmm.
And she's
Hmm.
trying to figure out kind of what am I going to do for the second part of my life? Like
Yeah.
there's all of this combined. Flesh that out a
Yeah.
little bit more though. Like what do you say to someone, this is your genetics?
So if someone's coming to me, the first thing that we have to get out of the way, the message is that it's not your fault,
Mm,
because
mm,
there is so much self-blame and self-loathing when people come to me and say, I need to heal my relationship with food. And then you add folks who are in a larger body, who carry immense shame, right? And self-blame. So that is the first kind of baseline, is that we talk about how genetics have a big role to play in just how you were born, right? People can, and like I think I talked about this last time, right? People can eat the same thing and be in totally different bodies. But diet culture teaches us that we look at someone and we have made a story already in our mind about how they are by what we see outside, right?
mhm, mhm. Oh, in
So I,
so many ways. Like it's not,
right?
yeah, yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think like if we look at that Bible verse of like, God looks at the inside and not the outside, right? I think we have forgotten that
Mhm,
in a
mhm,
lot of ways,
mhm,
right? And
mhm.
I and so yes, I first provide education on what diet culture is and how it's blamed them. We talk a lot about fat phobia, right? And so we touched on fat phobia, I believe, last time, right? So fat phobia is the belief system that if you are in a larger body, you are lazy, you're not eating correctly, you're not taking care of yourself. Even like it's so awful, like you're less intelligent, like what do we have, like all that stuff. Also, you're not being godly, right? So I have folks in larger bodies who have heard in sermons
Mhm,
that the way they exist in their body is ungodly,
mhm.
right?
Wow.
That,
Mhm,
like,
mhm.
I just is just
Yeah,
heartbreaking,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
And we have many folks that have to sit through that, right?
Mhm,
And they feel like they are sinful because of the size of their body.
mhm, mhm.
So I just want to protect that,
Yeah,
right? Because
yeah,
that is just so heartbreaking,
yeah,
right? Where we're supposed to be a safe place.
yeah.
Now, I say this as a caveat. We only know what we know. And so I know that people, I always like to give the benefit of the doubt. We don't mean to harm. So this is
Mhm.
why I want to talk about this, because we have to learn new ways of functioning. And now I'm on a tangent, but
Yeah.
that is what
Yeah.
we start with, that the overarching belief systems of what they've been taught and what they've been known and what they believed about their
Mhm.
body, and they believe it themselves, right?
Mhm. I really appreciate what you're saying, though, that how quickly we are to judge, you know,
Oh yeah.
without knowing truly, right? I remember
Yeah.
talking to someone that's struggled with anxiety, and he said to me, I used to like get so frustrated with the people that, needed the aisle seat or whatever, or needed, a special place because they
Yeah.
needed an exit in case he's like, he used to like, get with the program, who cares? What's the big deal? And then he
Yeah.
started dealing with some of these things himself, and he was like, oh, I am
Mhm.
so sorry. So there is
Mhm.
surely an ignorance in some places as well that we just aren't aware, we don't know. But at the same time, who are we in any time or space to judge that perspective as well? So, I always
Yeah.
have a posture of curiosity to learn into, and then also if we continue to have the lens of God, to see everyone through the lens of the forgiveness of Christ, with this hope of nourishment in Him,
Mhm.
then that judgment is there. And we're competitive human beings,
Oh yeah,
so
for
that
sure.
space comes in there as well. So
Mhm.
so you talk about it, genetics, you talk about hormones,
Mhm.
and again, we're
Mhm.
all unique in that space. And
Mhm.
then the food insecurity, right, or scarcity is another huge one that we can
Mhm.
very easily in the church assume wasn't there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Be,
Mhm.
if you grew up kind of with an abundance or in
Mhm.
supply, you assume other people the same thing. But I think
Mhm.
it goes more than that, because I even think of like how you eat at the table with your family. And for some families, it's you empty your plate, you clean off your plate,
Yeah.
right?
Oh
And
yeah,
others,
for sure.
so there's so much more. So unpack that part a little bit. Like, how do you work with that? Because I wouldn't even think of that.
Yeah, I kind of divide it in sections in my brain, right? So we look at how it was treated as a child, right? What your parents grew up with, right? If we look at that, you have to finish your plate. I can't remember if we talked about it in the first time, but that came from the war, right?
Yes, yes.
Right?
Where they
Yeah,
ate
and
tulip bulbs.
yeah, of
Yeah,
course, right?
yeah,
So
yeah,
I can completely appreciate why that is
yeah,
something that's important, right? And when I unpack it, because I work with parents too, right, to help with their children's relationship with food, and so we unpack the gift that we don't have to operate that way anymore. That we don't have to put pressure on people to
yeah,
finish their plates, things like that. Sorry, I'm kind of what
yeah.
was your
Yeah,
specific
no, for
question?
sure that, for sure. I'm just thinking
Yeah,
food security and stuff. How do you work through that then?
yeah. Yeah, and so and if we food insecurity is also traumatic. And that's another, trauma affects the size of your body as well and how you operate around food.
Yeah.
So then we're doing, a lot of intensive trauma therapy and healing towards that about, children who actually I have a lot of folks in larger bodies who it's a lot of trauma as a child of being blamed for their weight,
Mhm,
right? And being told that they put on diets really early in life, being bullied in high school, grade school. So we're unpacking that too.
mhm,
And then how you operated around food as a child and how that carries on into your adult, because they're doing, we those younger selves are all with us, right? Like
mhm,
how we learn as a child, we carry into our adult life. So then we're doing work around how to care for that child
mhm.
in those moments, giving that child the message that they should have had.
Yeah, yeah,
That's another part.
yeah,
So
yeah,
again, it's so
yeah.
complicated,
And
so
how would you
complicated.
work with that? So I'm thinking of, if I was a parent of a larger body child,
Yeah.
um, I know how critical kids are of each other.
Yeah.
I know
Yeah.
that he could very well be bullied.
Yeah.
What do I say to him? How do I encourage his uniqueness and his beautifulness in that, and protect him, or give him a narrative to say something back to the person that calls him fat or whatever? Like, yeah.
Yeah, so first I definitely like an approach of curiosity with that child. So asking them, what does fat mean to you? Right?
Okay.
What is being fat? Is that a bad thing? A good thing? And so, the new kind of way approach that we're trying to talk to parents and to kids about fat is like fat is a descriptor. So people are actually trying to take the word fat back and say, yeah, okay, like fat,
Yeah.
thin, like it's not an insult, it's just who I am. It's just a way of
Yeah.
being. So you can kind of offer more of a neutral stance to
Mm-hmm.
that word.
Mm-hmm.
Another like really important action is to feed your child who's in a larger body the same as anyone else in your household. That is so key because we need to show them a neutral approach to food. Another important aspect is to show body diversity to your child. So making sure that you're reading them books that show all different sizes of bodies. That's so important. I think like that was kind of on my thoughts of like what the church can do too, right? Are we looking at our material in our libraries and our books? Is it all very thin white people, right? Like we have to, that's an important thing to make sure of so that
Yeah.
in a child who's in a larger body can see themselves there
Yeah.
and see that.
So, but I can hear the person questioning saying, yeah, but Lindsay, there's an epidemic of obesity right now.
Yeah.
So how do you respond to that?
Oh yeah, I get that a lot. I get that a lot. Yeah, it's fear. It's a fear-based tactic, and it's like there's an epidemic and we need to solve it. And I would say we need to do the exact opposite is we need to care for the people we need to learn differently about why people are in larger bodies.
Hmm. So are
Um,
you saying then that it's okay that everybody is getting larger?
I have a problem with I do have a is there an obesity epidemic or is there more just disordered eating? And I think it's
Okay.
framed that way.
Okay.
I think that diet culture has caused people to be in more larger bodies.
Okay.
I think that's the
Yeah.
cause. I think
Yeah.
fat phobia and diet culture have caused people to be in larger bodies.
Okay. Very interesting because
Yeah.
culturally, there's different cultures, of course, that the bodies look different, right? So
Hmm.
there are, larger bodies in certain geographical spaces, even, right?
Hmm.
Then, in another, like Europe to the United States or whatever, there's a comparison there, or even specific countries or whatever else, there's different. So there must be a pressure from the culture in a different way in different countries then as well. I think that's what I'm
And
hearing from you.
genetics,
And
right? Right?
absolutely. Yeah. Yeah.
Yep, that has caused that food insecurity,
Yeah.
poverty. And so when people say, "But what about the obesity epidemic?"
Mm,
It's the wrong approach.
mm,
It really I find it's like, well, they should be the because when that's said, then I think that right away it's like we need to make sure that people are eating their fruits and vegetables
yeah.
and working out more. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So you're flipping the negative to what's
Yeah.
wrong to say, let's look at, the beautiful narrative and work through, where the disordered eating came from as such. And like kind of it's our fault as such in the diet culture.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Do
Yeah.
you have
Yeah.
statistics, Lindsay, as
Oh,
far
I do. I
yeah,
do like on like specific ones
yeah.
about
Like what
yeah,
is
like
the
I have a lot of resources I can send you them that kind of
yeah,
have done more research than that I've learned from about all this. And so there's the anti-diet book by Christy Harrison, and she provides a lot of stats on the obesity epidemic and all that stuff. There's also this like in the medical field, folks in larger bodies are also very much there's like a lot of these statistics from in the medical field, right? About if you're in a larger body, you're at all these health risks. And I hear everyone's listening right now, and they're really perked up, right? Because that's what people get really worried about. And so, what we talk about with health practitioners as like the work that I do is that again we I think we talked about this last time too in the medical like field there's a lot of fat phobia, right? I have a lot of people in larger bodies who won't see their doctor because they're terrified. They're avoiding medical care because they're already worried about the judgment of their bodies. So then yes, then their health gets worse, right? Because they're not getting good care.
wow,
There's
yeah,
bias. Yeah.
yes. So interesting. Okay, so a couple of questions. How does
Hmm.
someone know their disordered eating has become an eating disorder? And like you've mentioned a couple times now, large bodies are coming to you and say, saying, can you help me with my understanding of food?
Hmm.
So, how would someone know? Because there's also like smaller body people that are coming to you with a same question.
Hmm.
So, yeah, can you just kind of say like how would someone know that they're struggling with a disorder?
An eating disorder, like a clinically diagnosed eating
Yes.
disorder.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like when
So,
would I know to get help? Basically, I guess is my question.
mhm. So first and foremost, right, we can't tell by the size of someone's body if they have an eating disorder, a
Mhm,
diagnosed eating disorder.
mhm,
So to get help, ooh, like, does food consume your thoughts all the time? Do you feel anxious, like extremely anxious around food? Of course, we also want to look at medically, right? So are we dizzy all the time?
mm,
Are we low energy? Are we fainting? Are we, and again, you can't tell by the size of someone's body. So that is an indication, right? Another indicator, of course, is like loss of menstruation in women, right? That can cause that. Significant, like fast, rapid weight loss is another concern that's like diagnosed, right? But I have a lot of people again who are in larger bodies who aren't losing weight, but who are fainting, who are have low energy, low blood pressure, right? Like all these other things because they're restricting all day and not eating. Does it also interfere with your joy of life, right? So are you avoiding events and social events because you're worried about what's going to be served? Do you have a lot of food rules, very strict food rules? That's interfering. Um,
mm.
are you skipping meals or are your meals really small? Is your mood changing, right? Do you have low mood? Are you isolating more from friends? Even if so, because I have some people who are like, well, I'm not that bad, right? So maybe, it's okay. But I think anyone could get help for this, right? In some sense.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So you mentioned, the difference between that we fear overeating more than undereating. Talk about that because it kind of touches into I don't know the right word, whatever, of what you just said of all those signs. Where are we undereating in a fear of overeating?
Yeah. Mostly when I have people come to me, they are under eating. Even if they have, like, say, binge eating disorder symptoms,
Mhm.
right, which I think I talked about is actually the most common.
Yeah.
If you're struggling with binge eating, where you're like eating like a really, really, and so when I like a really large amount of food, okay, at one time,
Again, that's
you,
relative.
yeah,
So it's
relative,
hard
yeah,
to say whatever. Yeah.
like a large, but that's usually because you're under eating. So a lot of with binge eating, it's you're restricting all day, right? You're skipping breakfast. You have a coffee for breakfast, salad for lunch, and then by dinner you're ravenous and so hungry, right? So again, I think we are under eating as a society.
So and then is can someone be cured?
Yeah,
Can you tell
yeah,
me about that? Like how do you know you're cured? Because food is in front of us all the time. So you're
yeah,
working through that relationship with food.
yes.
And like, is there a point where you're like, oh, like I'm actually enjoying life again? And like, how do you know you're cured?
You're not fearful around foods. So when someone brings you a plate and they say, here, this is what you can eat it with less guilt and shame. Base markers like more energy, strength. You're not thinking about food all the time, right? It
Mm,
also shows in your actions. Eating is a priority. You're viewing it as a good thing. It's something where you're enjoying it, you're going out for friends, you're not avoiding social situations, you're eating the food and moving on. Oh yeah, it's a joy to see for me, like when I see folks that start off, right? And then they have this piece.
yeah,
Not saying it's not hard,
yeah,
that there's
oh yeah,
moments.
yeah,
I still have moments
yeah,
where
yeah,
I'm entering into situations where diet culture talk is very
yeah, yeah,
is very there,
yeah,
and I'm like, "Oh, like is it okay what I'm doing?" Like, and I have to come back to the truth. And
yeah,
so like just to say that out there, like for people, I think it never really goes away, but there's this more inner peace around it, right?
Because you
Yeah.
said it's all around us all the time, right? And the devil's going to
Yeah.
try to get in, intercept in that all the time.
Uh-huh.
So I'm
Yeah.
curious though, because you mentioned a couple times that people isolate, and you said when
Hmm.
they got better, they could, have, be with people again and
Hmm.
have stronger relationships. So if I'm sitting with someone
Hmm.
that is struggling, what are some things that I shouldn't say? And then the flip question that I want you to answer after that is, what should someone who is struggling with an eating disorder
Hmm.
say to me if I trigger them? Of course, that will be a little bit
Mm.
different to other people, but I'm sure that I have been in, around people that have a different relationship with food than I have. And I've
Hmm.
said things and they're like, yeah, both questions. How could I help someone in a space that's in an uncomfortable or unhealthy relationship with food, and we're eating together? And then a flip of that.
Yeah, so I would say it's really helpful to not comment on the size of our body or speak about our bodies in negative ways. That is a significant one. I have a lot of folks with, say, like anorexia that come in and they hear that in the community and in their friendships, and that's really hard. So trying to avoid and saying good things about your body. And why is that radical, right?
Yeah,
I think that
yeah,
that is radical, and why is it?
yeah,
Anyways, so that's a really important one. When you greet people, when you see them, like we usually say, like you look great, or have you
oh,
lost weight, or
oh, yeah,
and I know I have done it. We've all
yeah,
done it.
yeah,
But so can it be I missed you, right? Or it's good to see you. Can that be what our kids and what our other
yeah,
friends hear? So that one. And then I think, so not making comments like, oh, I have to maybe go for a run after I eat this to make up for this, or oh, I was so bad today, or I was good this morning and I didn't have a lot, so now I can eat more. Those type of comments when you're eating with someone with an eating disorder and in general are good to avoid.
sorry, I'm
Yeah.
just like guilty as charged. Because we're so aware of ourselves all the time that it's like, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we want to live well, and we want to encourage, and we want to, all of these things. So, okay, now the flip.
Yeah.
What would someone that is struggling, say to me in response to some of those comments? Now, I'm sure it'd be very, very difficult.
Like if they were advocating for
Yeah,
more support,
yeah,
I do go through that with my clients about, if they have friends or family that make a lot of comments about appearance. So it can be hard, right, to speak out. So I just say that, right? Like to people listening, if it's hard to speak up, so much love to you because you're already dealing with a lot. And so it's hard to, but if you can, just certain things like comments about your body make me uncomfortable, right? Because I'm thinking about it all the time myself. Hey, can we not talk about dieting right now? It's too hard for me. Hey, I'm really working on my relationship with food. Can we talk about something else? Switching the topic. Even just starting off with like how you feel, right? So when I hear you say that you were bad today about food, that makes me feel bad about how I'm eating right now. And I feel bad all the time about what I eat. So,
yeah. No, those are
those type of
beautiful, and
phrases.
and I really appreciate the grace that you used for the person that's receiving the words as well, right? Like just an understanding to
Hmm.
bring them into the space of the struggle, and we all have that with other circumstances. When I'm having a hard time, I like, can everybody just stay away from me because I don't want to talk about it. I don't have the energy to talk about it, whatever. Like, so there's this
Yeah.
working through that we all have, and it's exhausting to work through any health condition, right?
Yes.
And when it's in particular affecting your mind,
Yes.
screening. So
Yes.
then
Yes.
there's this like, oh, now I have to explain to my friends too. So,
Yeah.
by God's grace, I know why they're running away. And like
Mm.
to figure it out themselves, to have peace with the Lord in it, and then to explain it to the people around them is just like three mountains to climb in
Yeah.
in that space for them. But at the same
Hmm.
time, I'm like, please, people, speak up because we need to hear that to learn to be a good sister and friend and family
Hmm.
member for you as you're walking alongside of this. Okay, just I'm going to look at my thing now because I didn't. Are there things that you have written down that you want to talk about, Lindsay? Because I wanted to pull out a couple of
Yeah.
other things. A big one is the resources.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep. I have a list for you.
Okay. And well,
Uh,
if you have a list, but also to share what like
yeah.
yeah what benefit those are.
Yeah. Actually, so another thing that I would add to have helping folks who are struggling with an eating disorder to communicate to others in their life, if you feel like it's too much in person, text them after, send an email if it's too hard to do in person. That's okay,
Yeah,
right?
and I want to say to the listener that is struggling, please text me after. I want to be a good friend to you. I want to learn. I want to grow. I
Oh,
want to
yeah.
be that faithful Christ like, one
Yeah.
anothering with you through that. So
Yeah.
yeah, that's
Yeah.
really great.
I have a few other things of like that I had in mind about like how the church, like how we
Okay.
can
Yes,
support,
yes,
right?
absolutely.
I think I touched on this last time, but I want to talk about also like the stereotypes with diet culture that they have for women and men
Okay.
and eating and gender. I just want to speak to like all the women listening and everyone, of course, men and women, but like, are we giving the message to our girls to eat well, to be nourished, I think sometimes we do good with like boys, like you're a growing boy, and so you should eat and eat a
Okay.
full plate. Are our girls hearing that? And I don't know if they are.
Okay.
And I'm worried for that, right? That we're seen as it's feminine to eat less. So and I see that a lot within my work too, about when we unpack belief systems and that's in society and in the church. So just as a thought, just as like a thing that I
Yeah.
want to speak to in
Yeah.
there, right?
That's a great point because even what we gravitate to as women and men, right? Like the men will have the burgers and ribs, and
Yeah.
the women will have the salads and whatever,
Yeah.
right? Like,
Right. The dieting stuff, right?
but I never thought of it as that was a pressure. I just thought, but
Yeah.
I love a good burger, and I love
Same.
so yeah. So I think it's
Yeah.
even like what you have at events as such, what they feed the different
Yeah.
people. Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah,
Yeah, and are we making sure, right, about that
yeah,
and even the books we're reading and stuff. And I think us women are socialized to look at each other first and to compare what we're eating and then we go
okay,
grab something.
yeah,
And I think like men are more socialized to just go eat what they want. And so I want to encourage us women to be like, hey, like
yeah.
we can look internally and what we would want to eat. Um, Fasting.
Oh yes, a biblical concept. Yes.
A biblical concept, right? And
Yeah.
so I wanted to speak to that, right? About being very just again providing education to the church on being very careful about how you talk about fasting and suggesting fasting
Mhm.
as a way of showing your devotion to God, right?
Mhm.
And so being very conscious of that because yes, I've also seen Christians who are struggling with an eating disorder who have been told like, in the church that like fasting is a way, right, of being godly. And so it's a good awareness to have that that can be very, very triggering.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's great because fasting is
Hmm.
misinterpreted anyways.
Yes.
So yeah,
Yes.
yeah,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's very
Sorry. So
helpful.
those are just my other little
Yeah,
things. Yeah.
yeah.
And go ahead with your questions.
Now, no, I'd love to hear your
Yeah.
resources. Actually,
Okay.
well, and maybe before that, I just want to touch on that we don't even understand the value of the church, truly, right?
Mm.
That we hide away, and yet the church is there for our spiritual, physical growth as well,
Mm-hmm.
right? We were
Mm-hmm.
meant to be in community, and God has given us this beautiful institution of the family of God, and
Mm-hmm.
we want people to cry out to each other and rejoice with each other and weep with each other. And I think that if we aren't doing that well, we slip down the path more of that isolation and more of the eating disorder, specifically what we're talking about, but other things
Mm-hmm.
as well.
Mm-hmm.
So I just want to be mindful that when you are struggling, you know please go to your church and
Mm.
understand that we all are desiring for you to be thriving in Christ and having the joy, of the
Mm-hmm.
Lord when you eat, and all of that.
Mm-hmm.
I think we forget the preciousness of the bride, as well. We know our relationship with Christ, but we can become very individualistic in our
Mm-hmm.
own understanding of ourselves. But
Mm-hmm. No,
yeah,
no,
we're
we're
there.
not made. Yeah, we're not made to do this alone.
Yeah.
And yeah, and so I think if we have more of like that positive approach and are aware of how we communicate about food, then folks with eating disorders are more likely to reach out, right? Too, because they feel safe to do so. Yeah.
And there's so
Yeah.
much, right? Like, I've talked with a number of people in a lot of different spaces. We have to be aware of a lot. But I think if we can continue to see, that we are in Christ,
Mm.
all for each other, for
Yeah.
Him, then
Mm-hmm.
a lot of these things will be mitigated. Okay, let's finish off with the resources that you
Mm-hmm.
have, Lindsay.
Yeah, so definitely I would say the first one is there's a book called Feed Yourself by Leslie Schilling. So I did talk about that
Yeah.
one last time.
Yeah.
So she's on different podcasts.
Okay.
She provides a Christian perspective um, with diet culture and the church, and then also like how a church can help with all this. And I've learned a lot from her. So a lot of what I'm saying is also learned from her. Um, and she does it in a really great, gentle, grace-filled way too. And then I mentioned the other one, Anti-Diet by Christy Harrison. So she will be able to provide listeners with facts about, I know there's concerns about the obesity epidemic and things like that. So she will be able to provide good evidence-based um, information about some of that and talk about diet culture. Um, a great one for parents is a book called How to Raise Intuitive Eaters. There's two books. Actually, now I'm forgetting the author. I can give it to you after,
Yeah,
Hildy.
that would be
But
great.
if you're a parent listening and you want to like help when your kids are little, fantastic. So those are like great ones. There's also podcasts. Like if you look at podcasts, How to Raise Intuitive Eaters, that's a really good one.
And by intuitive, you mean like knowing what your body needs?
Yeah. So if people say to me, Lindsay, I don't want to diet anymore, what is a good approach for me to use? If you're not struggling with an eating disorder and just general kind of disordered eating, but please talk to your practitioner and like we would be able to decide that. Intuitive eating was created by Evelyn Triboli and Elise Resch. The whole concept of intuitive eating. And so there's principles about intuitive eating. And yes, intuitive eating is all about doing things differently from diet culture, and it's like a kind of there's like 10 steps approach, listening to your body more, um, learning how to operate and heal your relationship with food. Yeah.
Because I think
Yeah.
of intuitive is that like I'm feeling thirsty, I need water, right? Or I'm
Yeah.
tired, I need food. Is that, am I getting to the what kind of the
A
basics?
part of it. A part
Okay,
of it,
it's
a small
deeper than
part of
that.
it, right? They go about like, if you look at like toddlers, right? Toddlers are intuitive eaters.
Yeah,
They're like, I don't want that and I need that. So they go back to like looking at what are your body cues,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
What are they saying? And healing your relationship with food. It's
Okay,
awesome. Yeah.
okay, okay.
Hmm.
Interesting.
And then the other one I would say, and I will give you the link, is an emotion focused approach for parents who have children struggling with an eating disorder. And
Wow.
so this resource that I have has videos to watch. It has scripts to use on like how to talk to your child who's struggling with disordered eating. And it's fantastic. And I that's the approach that I use with parents as well. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, those are my main ones.
Yeah, well, just even the name, the emotion focused, right? Because we want to build that bond of love and understanding, and yet, like, the confusion for the parent must be so hard
Oh,
as well. So where they think
yeah.
they're doing their best, it actually might not be just because they don't know what to say or what to do, and they love their child
Yeah.
so
Oh
much.
my
And
goodness, yes. Yeah, and I just say that too if parents are listening and you have a child who struggled with an eating disorder or have one right now or are worried. you deserve care yourself, right? And so I offer a lot of care for parents who have children with eating disorders, and it's not your fault. You are doing your
Yes.
best.
Yes.
And so that is a good resource just to have. Yeah.
Love it. Yeah. Thank you
Yeah.
so much, Lindsay. You just have given me so much hope, and even just understanding, you started off with the worth, right? That we need to understand who we are in Christ, what our worth is. And
Mhm.
then understanding also that we as Christians are secure. He chose us before
Mhm.
the foundation of the world. We have been
Mhm.
completely engrafted into his family. We are his beloved children. So
Yeah. Mhm.
if we can flip the narrative to understand who we are in him, who we're living for, what we've received from him through Christ, you know,
Mhm.
oh man, like
Yeah.
all the other
Yeah.
mess and the evils will be gone. But
Yes.
yet the devil is real, the world is real, the flesh is real, the temptations are real. So let's as a church rise up and truly hold each other up to Christ with the love that he's given to us, so that we can understand the fullness, so that we can have the joy and confidence to walk
Yeah.
alongside of each other, but also to work through our struggles. Yeah. Bless you,
Mhm.
Lindsay. Thank you so much for wrecking my head and my heart in beautiful ways. And I hope that the listeners were encouraged, but also that they'll
Hope
continue
so.
to open their eyes and their hearts and ask more questions, and look at some of the resources and discern how they are reading scripture, and what books they're reading, and what the narrative is, so that we can give the joy of the Lord through our relationships and not hinder it more in their walk of faith. But may the Lord give you strength and wisdom, Lindsay, to
Thank
encourage the
you.
church in what you're doing and walk alongside individuals. But yeah, bless you. Thank you,
Thank
Lindsay.
you, Hildy. Thanks for having me.